Hello, it's Greg McAleen here, and I'm the project manager of Kinnigo Bay Bushcraft Centre. And you're now standing in the educational building, the Loch Ness Barge. So, kids, when you come in here, I will teach you about the various tribes that I've worked with and lived with, and how they live, and the teachings that they have given me on survival, wild cooking, foraging their form of foraging their part of the world, and as well as tracking skills and various. And you have to understand these are in different environments for what you're used to here. At the far end of the display cabinets down there, have various artifacts that have come back from the Sami people from northern Scandinavia that have spent time there, basically living in cold climate on the tundra. And also, particularly that time, that part of the world, as far north as that, you're up above the Arctic. Their environment is quite a lot different. They don't just have night and day, so they have a lot of darkness. The further you go north, there's darkness for 6 months, and then and then light for 6 months, which is quite a lot different from what we're used to here. So they have different survival skills to survive that environment, you know. So spending time with them, I learned a lot from them, and I brought back to teach the kids, and you'll be able to see some of the stuff when you're in here. Feel free to ask questions, you know. As we move on up, we'll be talking about the various indigenous tribes that live in the Americas, from South America right up to North America, particularly the Lakota Sioux Indians, the Pueblos, the Navajo. The Navajo particularly was good because they live in a desert environment, and it was through the Navajo elders that I learned my tracking skills on desert. You know, again, it's a harsh environment, and it's you're quite a bit away from what we would call civilization. You know, so you do need your survival skills in them environments, but it's good to bring it back here and teach. As you move along there again, I've collected you'll see various animals here that you'll learn about too, like animals live in particular parts of the world. Mainly snakes, but we have skulls and artifacts of different animals. We have prairie dogs here, we have coyotes here, we have bear, we have a lot of different ones. Animals that probably would have lived here at one time or another, way back in history. So kids, if you're going around here, you'll probably notice there's a lot of animals, artifacts hanging on the walls. We've got bear skins, we've got various skins here. None of these, before we go on, none of these are fashion items. These all have been gathered and given to me by various tribes who still need them for their survival, particularly the ones from the cold climates. You've got the Sami people of northern Scandinavia, who rely very much, they're reindeer herders, and they rely very much on every part of the animal for their survival. You know, so it's their food, it's the clothes on their back, and I'll show you a bit of that as we go along, and it's the roof over their head. They live in a structure similar to what the Lakota natives call teepees, but they call them over there as labus, and they're usually constructed out of reindeer hides. You know, so we do have a lot of stuff for bear skins and stuff like that there come from the tribes of Canada, who still it's still a food source for them, especially living in the northern Canada territories, where it is quite a wilderness, you know. And again, as we go along, you'll see a lot of stuff that's actually come from Europe, as well as across the far ends of the world. We do have skulls that have come here, and they're for teaching purposes. A lot of kids are very curious of them to know what they are. So we do have coyote skulls and prairie dogs and the likes of that, as well as deer that's come from here as well. But again, it's from a survival aspect. We have hunted deer ourselves, but we do it in the old traditional ways as well. I'm very respectful of the wildlife around us as well. We've also got live critters here, and they're probably our most popular members of staff is our reptiles, our snakes. So we have snakes from as far as Peru to Burma. So when we talk about Burma, we have, it's our biggest, probably our most popular member. We call her Myrtle, and she's an albino Burmese python. And she's the biggest snake we have here, but she's also the baby. You know, so there's still a bit of growing to go with her yet too, like. But she is quite popular. A lot of questions have been asked, and the most popular questions that I get asked are the poisonous. Proper term is venomous, and they're not. None of these snakes are venomous. I call them huggers, which basically means they're restrictors. So they give you a nice tight hug before they eat their food, you know. But they're very, very placid and very popular with kids, you know. So very, very safe. Another question we asked is, what do they eat? They will eat rodents and they will eat rabbits, especially the bigger ones. The smaller ones will eat a smaller rodent. And then I'm asked again, is, well, do you feed them every day? And believe it or not, most of those snakes can do without food for a month. You know, so I would feed them every 2 to 3 weeks to a month. That's all the feeding they need. But they're out every day. I've had the question before, is it not cruel keeping them in there? And these animals get as much exercise as your ordinary dog. They're out every day. If bad weather, they're out in here in the building, and they get to move about a lot. And if it's through the summer months, especially if the weather's good, they're out on the lawn, they're out on the grass, which is quite a surprise to people walking around past the bushcraft centre to see a 14-foot yellow snake on the grass. But it's quite popular and brings them in, you know. So we also here we do have tarantulas. We've got a Brazilian tarantula, a Brazilian salmon pink tarantula, and a Mexican red rump. They're viewed through the glass because they are venomous, but that's not the reason why I don't handle them, as they are quite timid and they get very stressed when handling, so they don't live as long. So I just made the decision, and when I first got them I was handling them quite a lot, then I made the decision not to, I would just leave them to people just to look at them. A lot of these snakes that you see, your ball pythons can come from as far as Asia, and they've been in parts of America. Your corn snakes, the same, they come from North America, but various other places. People have asked me about the corn snake. Does it eat corn? And it's not that it eats corn, it eats rodents, but they're enticed quite a lot by farmers who farm the corn. They're enticed to live in the cornfields because they keep the rodents away. It's the rodents that eats the corn, hence they got the name the corn snake. You know, we have a snake from Peru there. It's a boa constrictor. Now, it's a different breed again, but the pythons are all constrictors. It means basically what they do is they squish their food before they eat it. So the boa constrictor is known as a Peruvian red tail boa or a rainbow boa. It's quite popular because when it's taken out, especially when the sun's out, it's got like a holographic rainbow colours that come up on its skin. So it's quite popular for that purpose alone. You know, but the constrictors, some people are standoffish because they do squeeze when they're on you, but that's just the way they move around. It's not that they're constricting on you, it's just they move differently. Whereas the yellow one, the albino Burmese, it's when you're holding it's just like a dead weight. You know, it just lies there on you. You know, whereas the boa constrictor will move around you, but it's nothing to worry about. It's not constricting on you. It's its natural way of moving. If it's moving around the floor, again, it moves around tight corners, but it moves around tightly. You know, and that's just the way of boas. That's the way they move. You're probably asking the question now, kids, what's this here I have in my hand? You know, when you ask the question to people, what was the greatest invention to mankind, they always mention the wheel. But this was probably the best invention here. And the reason being, I'll explain here now. And as you open it up, the Sami women carry these on their belts. And this is, everything again is made from reindeer, because they rely on everything, the tools and all, they rely on everything from the reindeer. This they carry on their belt. And if you open it up, they have a needle in it. This is a Sewn Kit. And the reason why this is the greatest invention is when humans moved around the earth from warmer climates to colder climates, we had to put clothes on our back. We had to put skins on our back. We had to do various things to keep ourselves warm. So I always say that the greatest invention is the Sewn Kit, because they put the clothes on our back. That would be the sinew that they used from the reindeer to make the threads. Things again from reindeer. Different parts of the world they use different things, but it's a reindeer they rely on. This is a pouch. It could be used for anything. It could be used for carrying herbs. It's quite decorative. This would have probably come later, in later stages, but they have been using materials for quite a long time too. This one gets a lot of them too. This is babies' moccasins or shoes, again made from the reindeer. And how the grandmothers and the mothers do this here is they measure the skins around your feet when you're sitting around the fire at night, and the fathers and all the grandfathers are telling the stories. They sit and get the size measured around their feet, and then they make the shoes from that. That goes from young child right to adult, and these are quite warm. It's probably one of the warmest skins to lie on too. And obviously they need them for the cold climates that they're in, especially the winters in northern Scandinavia, from North Cap and Norway right through to Finland, right over to Mongolia. Okay, so I hope that information that you've seen so far, it's a quick thing, but hopefully when things lift and you're able to come down here, we'll be able to educate you more on how the various tribes and Indigenous people and how our own ancestors would have lived at one time too through these teachings. And feel free to call whenever you can. You can still call in smaller groups too, like. Okay.